Hi, folks. Hello. Hello, folks. Are you able to hear us? Hello. Can you type yes if you are able to hear us, folks? There's a chat window just right next to the video, so you should be able to type into that window. So if you are able to hear us, please do type yes. Hello. Hello. Are we audible? Can you just confirm, guys? Yes. Hi, Vivek. I see that you have joined last time also. Welcome back. So you had joined last time, right? So I am assuming you're the same person. All right, welcome back. So let's begin. We have this crash course on Bootstrap that's scheduled today. So for the next 2 hours, I'll take you through Bootstrap. So thanks first of all for joining in spite of your busy schedules in office and in spite of the Bangalore traffic. So let's get started. So today we are actually planning, yes, you're the same person. Yes, you're right. So today we are planning to spend the next 2 hours basically going through Bootstrap, and we'll be learning about the basic features of Bootstrap. And then we'll see how to build a portfolio page, basically. If you want to have a portfolio page for yourself on the internet, then we'll be seeing how to build that actually. All right. So let's get started with Bootstrap. So this is a crash course in Bootstrap. So these are the topics that we'll be covering today. All right. So we'll first see an introduction. Then there are some basic widgets, like you want to have buttons on the page. You want to style some images on the page. So Bootstrap provides some basic functionality to do that, features to do that. You have something known as font awesome. When you want to include a lot of fonts on your icons on your page. Basically, your web pages will have a lot of icons. So when you want to include a lot of icons on the page, you'll use something known as font awesome, which is very popular. It is not part of Bootstrap, but I'm covering it today. So font awesome. Then the grid system of Bootstrap, that is how we lay out pages, put things to the left, put things to the right, put things in the center. So all that will be same, basically. Then we have a collapsible panel, which is basically uh, content that can be opened and closed. All right. So we'll be saying that. And then forms, basically. So forms, basically, you want to have a lot of forms on the page. So you have a contact form, you have a registration form, you have a login form. So how do you build all those things? And then navigation menus. So on top of the page, on any website, we'll have the navigation menu. So how do you build that using Bootstrap? That's what we're going to see. And finally, using all of this knowledge, we're going to build a personal portfolio page, which is hosted in this place. So I'll just show you that, and then we'll get started with Bootstrap. So we'll get started with buttons, getting started with Bootstrap. So this is the page we're going to build. This is a personal portfolio page I built for myself. You should be able to build for yourself something like this or something different, basically using all the features that we learned today. All right, so basically some details about yourself, and this is what I was saying, collapsible panel, something that can open and close and show details. You can have your tweets to the side. You can lay things out. Okay, to the left I need to have this, or to the right I need to have that, and to the center I need to have something, and then in the center I need to have my work experience or something, describing what and I've been, and then probably a contact form. So we had seen that we'll be looking to forms also. So all this we're going to see in today's workshop. today's webinar. So let's get started. So what is Bootstrap first of all? Okay, so let's go to getbootstrap.com. So this is the Bootstrap site. Okay, Bootstrap, as it says, is the most popular. It's actually the most popular HTML, CSS, and JavaScript framework. Okay, when it's a framework, basically it's going to provide a lot of features for you to build websites and web applications. That's what it's going to do. So you don't require to know too much of basics. With little bit of basic knowledge, you can build websites and web pages. That's the idea of Bootstrap. So it helps in developing responsive mobile-first projects on the web. So what do you mean by responsive mobile-first projects? Basically, these days there's a lot of emphasis on your pages looking good on tablets and mobile phones also. For example, this very page, if I'm going to resize this page, let me just resize this page, this browser window. Do you see that the top navigation menu, this is the navigation menu, it gets collapsed, number one, and then I get this toggle button. I click on this, it opens and shows up, right? Because on a mobile screen, you don't have that much width. You cannot have so many menu items. So you need to have such kind of, patterns. So that it looks good, it works well on a mobile screen also. So Bootstrap provides you this. This is what is known as responsive design. And Bootstrap is a responsive framework. Means whatever you develop with Bootstrap is going to look good on both desktop as well as mobile devices. All right. So if you're, I'm not able to monitor right now, but if you're experiencing any issues, just ping me, okay? So I'm assuming everything is going on fine. So responsive means whatever pages you develop will look good on all devices, all right? So you can see that this menu is functioning well. The pattern has changed from single items to collapsible list, all right? So this kind of widgets Bootstrap provides. It's whatever you develop with Bootstrap, you can be assured it's going to look good on mobile devices. It's going to look good on tablets. It's going to look good on desktops. So it gives you features. It's up to you to build these things. And it's a mobile-first framework. What do you mean by a mobile-first framework? It's built with the philosophy that mobile phones are the ones people will use mainly to see your website. So it actually starts off assuming that mobile device is the one on which your page will be rendered. And then it slowly adds styles so that it will look good on tablet, it will look good on desktop, and so on. So the entire philosophy of building a page in Bootstrap is that you think of mobile first. Right? That's how Bootstrap has been designed. So that's the overview of Bootstrap. You have seen this entire site, Bootstrap site, is also built with Bootstrap. So that all these features are actually Bootstrap's features. This collapsible menu items on the navigation bar and so on. So let's get started. First thing we have to do, we have to download Bootstrap. So click on download Bootstrap. The current version is v3.3.7. Bootstrap 4 is coming. It's in test. It's being tested. Its stable version is not yet out. That's the. I think it's Q code FI. It's Q code FI. I think so. Q code FI. I'm not also sure. Okay, so first click on download Bootstrap. All right. So if you download Bootstrap, options to download Bootstrap. All right. Actually, you need not even download Bootstrap. If you include this in your HTML page, actually, if you include that code that's shown, that is also enough. That is basically Bootstrap files that are hosted on the internet. So on MaxCDN. Okay, so you can do this, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to download it, host it, and use it. So you have three options here, you can see, Bootstrap, source code, and Sass. As long as we are only concerned with using Bootstrap to develop our pages, as is, we can just download Bootstrap and use it. If we want to customize Bootstrap, then we can go and download this. But we are not going to see how to customize Bootstrap in today's session. is going to be just plain Bootstrap and using its features. I'll just mention later how to customize. So I'll go ahead and download this. If you're a person who's interested in developing Bootstrap further, it's an open source project. You can even download here this thing and you can customize further. Okay, I'm not sure if it's open source. I think it is, but whatever, you can customize. You can, if you want to really customize and all, you can download this. Okay. So coming to the plain version, I'm just downloading Bootstrap. I'm just using it. So I'll download Bootstrap. So it's getting downloaded. So it's there in my directory. I'll just copy this into a folder where I'll be working today. So let me go to SKU code, webinars, and let me create a folder. I'll call it webinar 2 live. By the way, this is the second in a series of webinars that we are conducting. We have 2 other webinars lined up at the same time the coming 2 weeks. So this is all leading up, by the way, to a front-end web development course that we are offering. We'll be telling the details later. So let's get into this webinar 2 live folder that we created. Okay, I'll create a folder external. It's just a good practice. So I created a folder external. I'm getting into it, and I'll paste Bootstrap. I'll just rename this a bit because this name is a bit long, so I want to rename it. Okay, leave it at this. And one more thing, Bootstrap also relies upon jQuery for some of its components. So jQuery is another framework. It's a library actually. So jQuery.com, if you go, you can download jQuery from there. Some of Bootstrap's components rely upon jQuery, not all of them. So it's not a strict necessary download. But one of the components we'll be using today, 2 of them will be relying upon this. So let's download this. You can download the production version. I'll explain what the production and development version are. You can download either one actually, but I'm downloading the production version. And let me go to the downloads folder and I'll copy it onto our folder. Okay, and again, it's an external dependency. So copied it here and I'm renaming it. All right. So these are the 2 things that we strictly require, but we are also using font awesome today. I'll come to that later. So as I told, jQuery is a dependency for Bootstrap. Okay, so you have to download jQuery also. So let's get started. So I have this folder already open, the parent folder open. So you can see our webinar 2 live. Probably it's a little small. All right. So I have this webinar 2 live, and we have the external folder. I'll create a file within this again. Intro.html. All right. So here we are going to learn about Bootstrap. So the first thing is we have to include Bootstrap. We have to create a plain HTML page. So I've shown, I'll not go through HTML in detail, but I'll just mention what things are. Okay, so this is a basic structure of the HTML page. We had actually covered this in the last webinar. So basically, a HTML page consists of tags. As you can see, there are tags here. Tag comes in pairs. For example, you can see for this HTML tag, there's a closing /HTML tag. All right, and all the content will go within these 2. The HTML tag can further have 2 other tags, head and body. So you can see a pair of tags, head and closing tag /head, body and closing tag /body. So head will contain information about the page. For example, if you want to give a title for this page, let's say we want to title this as Introduction to Bootstrap. Okay, we can title it that way. And the title will appear. So if you view this is a complete HTML page. It has no content right now. Okay, so you can see the title has appeared in the tab title bar, right? Introduction to Bootstrap. It's come here. Right now we have no content on the page, all right? So, all right, so let's get started. Here is where we'll include other things. This just describes some more things about the page. Let's not get into these details. So this is a basic structure of the HTML page. Here we'll have to include certain files so that we can start with Bootstrap. To include is the Bootstrap CSS file. So where is our thing? It's within external and it's within Bootstrap 3.3.7, right? So within our external folder, then including this is the way we'll include CSS. We have to use the link tag with the href attribute. So external, within that we have Bootstrap 3.3.7 folder. Within that there's a CSS folder. Within that you have two versions. Now I'm just coming to what you mean by the production and development version. You can see here every file has a corresponding .min file. There's a theme.css, there's a theme.min.css. There's a theme.css.map, there's a theme.min.css.map. There's a bootstrap.css, there's a bootstrap.min.css, where is a bootstrap.css.map, and there's a bootstrap.min.css.map. So basically, these are two versions of the same file. Okay, they're like twins, except that if you see this file, okay, if you see this file, if you actually open and see, you will see that you will be able to understand this file. You won't be able to understand this file. That's all. Okay, because this file is stripped of all spaces, it uses very small names and so on. Okay, comments are stripped off and so on. So basically, it's a you can imagine it's a minified version. So that when it's transferred over the internet, it takes less time. All right, so we don't want a big file. So usually we'll include the .min.css version. All right. So this is the first include that we'll have to do, and this is the second include. By the way, I didn't want to include theme. Okay, I wanted to actually include bootstrap.min.css. So these are the two includes you'll have to do, CSS files. All right, these are both CSS files. So this gives a basic set of styles, the first include, and the second include gives an enhanced set of styles, which will sort of override the styles of the basic set of Bootstrap basic styles. So apart from these two, there are two includes. Bootstrap source equal to, now we are including JavaScript file. So usually JavaScript files we've seen we include at the end. So just before the end of the body we have to include. It's not necessary, it's a best practice. So source equal to, we'll have to include first of all jQuery, because jQuery is a dependency for Bootstrap. So within our external folder, all right, within our external folder, we have jQuery.3.2.1 version min.js, and then I'm including Bootstrap's file. So within external folder, there's a Bootstrap folder. Okay, so JS, and within that we have bootstrap.min.js. I'm including a min file. If you include the .js file also, it won't make a difference, except that it's going to take more time for the page to load. Okay? So that's it. So we have included the two things. Now we are all set to actually start off with Bootstrap. So now let's say you want to create a small button in Bootstrap. Okay, then how can you do that? You just need to say, okay, create a normal HTML button. So this is how we would create a normal button. There are various ways in HTML. This is one way. So this would create a normal button. And we say the value property, that should be the text within the button. Okay, click me. All right. So if you view the same page now, you'll see a button there. Okay, we see a button. Bootstrap removes the default margins that is given by the user agent style sheet. You have seen the browser applies some default styles, it will give some spacing on the sides of the page. That is removed by Bootstrap. So you get like this. If you want, you can add it for clarity. So I'll add some small style here so that it's clear. And I'll say, okay, for our body, HTML body element, we are going to give margins on all sides. Let's say 8 pixels margins on all sides. So to the top, right, bottom, left, you'll get margins. So now you'll see that the button is slightly off the edge. Okay. So you can see that even for a simple button, Bootstrap has already given some different styles. This is not the way usually buttons will appear in a page. All right, so it's already a little bit different. But if you add the Bootstrap classes, so that's where the magic comes in. So entire Bootstrap is, you should know how to mark up in the way it expects, add the tags and all in the way it expects, and add the appropriate classes, that's all. If you know these two things, you can develop web pages. So if I just say BTN, okay, let me show you with this. I've just added one class BTN. Now this will enhance the styles, if you see already. So you can see the button is looking very different now. All right, it's a flat button. It is gray color by default, and there is some text within it. Okay, so already it has given some styles. Now, usually the button class at least is not a standalone class. You have to use it with other modifier classes. So this is a basic set of styles that it gave. It gave some padding around the text. It made the text black and so on. So along with BTN, we'll have to use modifier classes. For example, BTN default. So you'll see it will be further enhanced from this. So now if you see, it's like this, okay? So now we have a full-fledged button actually, and this is the default style for the button. So like this, we can add different kinds of buttons, right? Uh, so we can add, for example, BTN success. So these are the themes. So Bootstrap has a lot of themed kind of widgets. So you'll find this very often. Default, success, info, error, not error, danger they call it, warning, and primary, that's very important. So I'll say here. These are the things that you'll see, they keep occurring again and again in Bootstrap. So these things will keep occurring again and again in Bootstrap. So for buttons, there is a button success, button hyphen success modifier class. So we have seen last time, if you want to use multiple classes, so in the class attribute, you will have to separate the class names by space, one or more spaces. So this is how success button will look like. So, and I won't go into each of these, it's just changing the modifier, right? I'll illustrate a few, maybe the important ones. Success, default we have already seen, that's the first thing we saw. Primary, usually use primary buttons for the main action on an element. For example, form submit button will be using primary thing. And danger, which you'll use whenever you want to confirm from the user before some big action is taken. So for example, you may use this on, let's say you're building an e-commerce site, then you'll use this for the buy box button. So you'll have to use the primary color for that, like that. So you may use this whenever you have, okay, you are giving an alert to the user and saying, okay, this action succeeded. Okay button might be green color. So you can customize this. We'll be seeing how to customize all this later. So, and then this you can use maybe if you want to say, okay, something is going to go wrong. Are you sure you want to delete? Then you can, yes, that button may be in red color, this danger, that can be the theme used. So, okay, so that's basically buttons, all right? So there's a lot more to it. Today's webinar is just an introduction. So we are not really going into much of details, all right? So we have gone through how to install Bootstrap, how to get started, what Bootstrap is. We have seen buttons. Next, let's see images and how to use icons on your page. So, any questions before that? It's clear, right? It's clear. No questions. So, all right. So, next, let's look at image classes. All right. So let's say I have an image on this page. Right now I don't have an image. So what I'll do is I'll download some image. Let's say I download the Twitter image itself. By the way, Bootstrap is by Twitter. Okay, Twitter and Instagram. I think they collaborate and work. I think it's open source only, so other people also do work on it. So, okay, let me take this. Okay, this is 600. I'm looking for a square sort of image, then you'll actually, with the background, then you'll get the effect properly. Otherwise, okay, I'll just use the scene square. Okay. All right, so again, as a good practice, let me create an IMG folder to hold our images. All right, so I'm creating a new folder, IMG, and within that, let's save our Twitter logo. All right, so I have already created this IMG folder, and we have this Twitter logo.jpg downloaded. So a lot of images we'll have to use on our pages, and Bootstrap gives a nice set of classes to deal with images. For example, let's say we include this IMG folder within that this Twitter logo. For some reason, so I put it within the external. Okay. Let me move it outside. So right now we have included an image on our page. Alright, so we see an image on this page. Now, Bootstrap gives a nice set of classes that you can use on this image. For example, a lot of times you don't have enough space for this image. For example, okay, let me give this an ID. Okay, ID is just a unique way to identify an element so that you can use it in your CSS. So this is basically CSS to target that element, that particular element, and give it some particular styles. So the style we're going to give this is we're going to restrict the width of this and the height of this to 100 pixels. All right. So now we have a div within which we have an image. Last time we saw that images take up their natural height and width. So even though this div is just 100 cross 100, okay, and let me add a border so that it's clear it's 100 cross 100. So I'm adding a 1 pixel thickness solid line black color border around this div element. So actually you can see the small black here. That's basically because of the border that's been applied. So the image is actually overshooting that, all right? So images will flow outside their containers, unlike text and all. Images will flow outside their containers. So Bootstrap actually gives this nice feature. You just need to add this class, IMG responsive. And what will happen is, the image will neatly fit within its parent element. So now the image neatly fits within this div, which is 100 cross 100. Right? So that is one class facing IMG responsive. So we'll be actually using this IMG responsive class for building a portfolio. Okay, let's see some other thing. Let's say we have the same image. Now I've just duplicated the image, so we have it right below it. Now you can add some effects to it. For example, you can say class equal to IMG rounded. I'll just show some of these. So it becomes rounded. You can see the corners of the image, then rounded off now. All right. So similarly, you can add an IMG thumbnail. And what will happen is whenever you have to use thumbnails on your page. You usually put some border around it for neatness. So it will just add some borders around it, give some margin from the border and spacing between the border, some padding it will give between the image and the border. So thumbnail, and then one more interesting thing is round. So we'll be using this in our portfolio again. IMG circle, sorry, not round. What will happen is the image will be neat. So you would have seen this in a lot of websites again. Whenever you have some portfolio profile image of a person, user, so you would have seen it around. So you can easily make this using Bootstrap. So you don't really need to know we had seen the basics of this last time, but you don't even need to know all that to make such good looking, to get such good looking features in Bootstrap. So all you need to know what class I need to add. Okay, what are the classes where I need to add them, how I need to add them. For example, if this has to be responsive, there should be a container around it, and it will take up the size of the container. All right, so that's about images. So the next thing that we're going to see is font awesome. So this is a small break from Bootstrap actually. So font awesome, let me take you to the font awesome site. So you can see that actually font awesome has nothing to do with Bootstrap as such. All right, it is a separate library. Okay. So usually it's a very popular, just like Bootstrap is the most popular HTML, CSS, JavaScript framework to build web pages. Similarly, Font Awesome is like the most popular place people will go to, library people will go to whenever they want to use icons on the page. Okay. So basically, Font Awesome is what we'll use. Why it's so popular is because it gives very good looking icons and a very great number of icons. So if you just see the set of icons they have, 675 icons, and all this is for free. They're coming out with a pro version, which is yet to be released. That comes for $40. I would say it's still worth it because I'm sure they provide lots of features with that. So if you see what icons they provide, just a sample, you can see. I'll just scroll the page. Okay, it's a huge set. So this huge set is available to you for free. All right. So sometimes even this is not sufficient. That's how it is, especially when you deal with very domain specific. Even this won't be sufficient. But anyway, for a general site, this is more than sufficient. Something you can find to make use of from here. How do you make use of this? So first of all, we need to download Font Awesome. So I'll just go to the home page and download. All right, so let's download. Download. I don't want this. This is the pro version, yet to be released. All right, so we have downloaded. I'll copy this to our webinars, webinar 2, and external, because it's an external dependency. We have downloaded from the internet. Okay, I'll just change the name just to. All right. So we have downloaded Font Awesome. So how do we include this in our page? It is very simple. If you see Font Awesome, it comes with a CSS file. Okay. Again, there is a .css and there's a .min.css. Right. So it's too small, I think. Right. So there's a .css and there's a .min.css. So basically, you can use anything. I'll be using the .min.css. So all we need to do is include Font Awesome. So external. So it doesn't depend. This order is important. You should include min, then only theme.min.css, because min introduces a basic set of styles, bootstrap.min.css, and bootstrap-theme.min.css will introduce an enhanced set of styles which overrides it. So this order is important, basic, then enhanced. But Font Awesome is totally different library, so you don't have to worry. You can include it anywhere. It's too small, right? So Font Awesome 4.7.0 slash CSS folder slash font awesome.bin.css, let me include. All right, so now we are all set to use Font Awesome. That's all we need to do. Download and into your project folder somewhere and include the path, include it, include the CSS file. So let's say we want to include some icons on the page. So how will we go about doing it? Okay, so till now we have seen buttons. We've seen images. Right, and then now we are seeing font awesome. Okay, so how do you use font awesome? You can use any inline tag. So last time we had seen span as an inline tag, so you can use span. So span, you can say, give it a class. Just look at what icon you want. For example, just go to this examples page or go to the icons page of font awesome. Check out what icon you want. Okay, let's say I want. Let's say I want this user circle icon, all right? So what you need to do, remember the name, user hyphen circle. So what we will do is we'll say span class equal to FA, that's the base set of styles for awesome icons. Then FA hyphen user hyphen circle, that's the thing, right? So that we saw. User hyphen circle. That's it. And now you should be seeing an icon on the page. So if you see the page, okay, we have this icon here, right? So we have the user icon already there. So it's too small probably. So what can I do about it? So this font awesome library is actually, it's an icon font, all right? Basically, each and every icon that you see here in font awesome, each and every icon that we see here is actually a character in a font file. Or it's actually a character, just like ABCD. That's how they designed it. So just like you have Arial, Times New Roman, those are font files, those are fonts. Similarly, font awesome, the entire set is, there are 675 characters in that font, basically. So all we need to do is we can use our, whatever we learned last time, which is how to work with fonts. So we had seen last webinar how to work with fonts. So same thing we'll be reusing, that knowledge we'll be reusing to work with these things. So they're basically characters, right? So let's say this thing, I want to style it. So whatever we have applied this FA user circle, I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to increase the font size to 2 times. Font size. And I'm going to make the color as, let's say, crimson color. So now if you see this page, the same icon, you can see it has doubled in size and it has also become red color. Okay. So that's the advantage of using something, these are called icon fonts. There are other options too on the internet, but this is the most popular one, Font Awesome. So you can use your knowledge of how to work with fonts and all easily to change your icon size, everything you can do very easily. So you can even do things like this. That's the biggest advantage. Since it's just text, it's actually only text. So you can do, okay, now I'm going to hover over it and the color should change. So now when we hover over that, when we go place our mouse over that, it's going to change to light gray. Okay. So one of the biggest advantages, okay, all this makes development easy. But the real reason why people use font icons is because they scale well. Sorry, if you just see, I'm just zooming in my window. All these images, these are images we downloaded, right? This Twitter image. You can see it's losing clarity, right? Maybe it's not so clear, but you can see these pixelated things around the border. Obviously, it loses clarity. There are some small images. But if you see this, our icon font, you cannot make out that it's very clear, all right? That's because fonts, when they scale up very well. So font icons work very well. Using font icons is SVG, which is also gaining a lot of popularity these days. All right. So an alternative to doing this is through SVGs, but we are not going to look into that. All right. So now we know how to use make use of font awesome. Again, this is just an introduction. There are some more modified classes you can add to this. So you need not actually make, say, the font size 2M. There are some shortcut classes also, like FALG or something like that. FA 2x, 3x, 3 times, 4 times, like that, and all you can add. There are some more modified classes like this. All right. So now we know how to use font awesome also. This also we'll be making use of in our portfolio somewhere here. So at the bottom, you'll be able to see these links. So this is where we are going to make use of font awesome. All right. Buttons. So you can see, you already know how this is made. So we are only going to add BTN primary to a button, and we'll be able to get this. Right. This is BTN default. Now let's go on to something else. So any questions?
I see a script tag inside body.
Yeah.
We can add that script tag inside edit.
You can add it.
But is there any specific reason to add it
Inside body. Your name?
Ashwin.
Yashwant. Okay. So Yashwant has a question for us. So the question question Yashwant has is we were adding the script tag here. So Yashwant is asking if we have to have the script tag here. So we need not have the script tag here. You can even put it. You can put it anywhere actually. So I can even put it here. I'll tell the reason why I'm doing it. So you can even put it here. You'll see no difference on the page. So okay, if you refresh the page, no problem. Everything is happening fine. Okay. The reason why I'm putting at the end is this is a sort of an old practice with current browsers. You can even put it at the top, and there are workarounds. Why we put it at the bottom is scripts when they load, they block further processing from happening. So once you encounter a script tag, if I put a script tag here, the moment the browser sees a script tag, until the script tag is fetched and it is executed, it won't do anything else. It will stop execution of the page. It will stop rendering, nothing will happen. So we always include script tags at the end.
for performance? Or
Performance.
loading.
Yes, exactly. Uh, all right, so we were looking into font awesome. Uh, so the next topic that we have is grid system and collapsible panel. Now we are actually getting into the meat of Bootstrap. Grid system is like the heart of Bootstrap. It is one of the main features of Bootstrap. I won't say heart of, okay, it's one of the main features of Bootstrap. So, and then collapsible panel and forms and navigation. We have 4 things. I'm not sure I can cover them in detail, so I'll give an introduction, a small introduction. Okay. So coming to the grid system. So this is an introduction. Now let's get in the grid system. So I'll create a new file. I've created a grid.html and some basic HTML markup where we are going to, in this page, we will be seeing the grid system of Bootstrap. So again, the same old includes. So what you could do is actually I have another thing. So I have this plugin for VS Code. I use VS Code editor. So I use this plugin called Bootstrap 3 snippets. All right. So Bootstrap 3 snippets, and what that does is it helps me easily build Bootstrap code. I don't have to type from scratch. So instead of typing all this and the includes, I can just say BS3, and I forgot the name of the. I don't use it for normally for the includes. That's why I'm. Okay, BS3 body, BS3 page. Yeah, BS3 page header or something. I'm not sure if this is that. No, it's not that. BS3. Yeah, template is there. All right. So it gives you a sort of a template, so I don't have to type out these things again and again. All right. So let's learn about the grid system. Okay. As you can see, it has already included Bootstrap and all. It has already included jQuery and bootstrap.min.js from the internet. All right. So it's up to you what you want to do. All right. So I don't want to. If you want to maintain a simpler form of a template, what you can do is you could probably just create your own one and use it again and again. Okay, so I don't want to handle IE9. So all that code was actually to handle old versions of Internet Explorer. So I don't want that really. So I'll create my own template. So my template is slightly different. So let me have this. Right. So probably I'll just prefer to keep a template like this. So I'll copy this into a separate file so that we don't have to keep typing it again and again. I'll call it template.html. Paste it for future use. All right. So that's a basic template. Coming back to a grid. So what is the grid system in Bootstrap? I'll just show you an example. That will make it more clear actually. So let's say we have, I'll write the code, then it will become much easier for you to understand. All right, some content here. So I'll just grab some content probably. Right, and I'll duplicate this code. Okay, 3 times. So total 3. All right, so this one div, I've duplicated it. Okay, let's see how this renders. That will give a understanding of what the grid system is basically. So I'll open this grid.html now. Okay, and I've done some mistake somewhere. So
Last row.
which div is not closed?
First close views.
First, oh, they're not closed, is it? Yeah, they're not closed. And oh, even the content has gone. Okay, I don't know. Okay, so I've made a mistake here copying things. So I'll just copy again. So okay, that's once, twice, and we have 3. Okay, let's just see this. So you see a neat 3-column layout, right? So you would have seen this on the internet in many places. You would want to get layouts in the form of columns. For example, you can see here this content is also structured in 2 columns. There's one main thing, maybe the main blog post, and then one side, on the side you have a smaller width, half width of that, the main one. So that there are 2 unequal widths. Here there are, the layout is 3 equal width things, right? So whenever you want to get a column layout, basically you'll use a grid system. Okay? So grid system is something that is there in many frameworks. So basically you will use the grid system, and let's go about how to build this. So basically, imagine dividing up this entire screen into 12 columns, okay, just like a graph sheet or something. you divide up the entire screen into 12 columns. All right. So now out of those 12, let's say we are allotting 4 columns for the first, 4 units for the first column, 4 units for the second column, 4 units for the third column. All right. So basically, that's what I've done here. 4, 4, 4 out of 12. So Bootstrap divides the page into 12 columns. Out of that, you have to say how much for each column, how many units for each column. That's all. So what if, let's try playing around with this. So 2, 8, 2. That adds up to 12 again. So you'll see that it will be broken down in that ratio. 2 is to 8 is to 2. Okay. So that's how it works, this grid system. Now coming to what this MD and all is, what this row is, container is. Okay. So container, what it does, so all these classes are part of the grid system, and whenever you want to build a grid, you'll have to structure your code in this fashion. All right. So on the top level, you have a div class equal to container, which is basically going to add margins to the left and to the right. Okay. So it's going to add margin to that. So you can see here there's a left side margin, right side margin. If I didn't have this container, it wouldn't. Okay, if I remove this container, okay, let's collapse this row. If I remove this container around it, with class equal to container, then it's not going to have that margin around it, that's all. So what do we do with using div class equal to container? We essentially give margins, and not only are those guest margins, they are responsive margins. So entire Bootstrap is responsive. So what will happen is, as and when the screen gets smaller or whatever, the margins will also resize. Okay, forget that it's fallen down into one column now. We'll come to that. But you can see the margins are also reducing in size according to the screen size. So that's what container class provides. It gives responsive margins. So if you don't want margins, you need not include this. Okay. But usually it's recommended that when you're using row, it's better you use container around it. So row will contain is one row basically. It's one logical row. So 1, 2, 3 columns, right? So that's row. Then we have 3 columns, 3 column layout, which we have divided up as 2 is to 8 is to 2. Now coming to what this MD means. Okay, MD is a modifier which means that for medium devices and greater. So Bootstrap, what it does, it classifies devices into 4 types: a small device, extra small device, medium device, and a large device. Extra small, small, medium, and large. Medium is usual desktop, or large might fall into desktop. Mine actually is a large. Your phones and all will fall into small or extra small. And tablets will usually fall into small or medium device. Okay, so that depending on screen size, it classifies. What MD means is, for medium devices and greater, follow this kind of a layout. So if I have to, so what will happen if I go to a small device? So that's why it collapses. So the moment it internally, whatever it treats as a breakpoint, it's actually some 968 pixels. So or something like that, 992 pixels. So at that point, when it goes below that, it is going to collapse all your columns one below another. So again, this is a responsive design pattern where multi-column layouts will get collapsed into, will get stacked up. So that's a usual practice. So Bootstrap gives you automatically all that. So that's the first thing. MD. Now you can even have, I'll not get into D, you can even have multiple layouts for multiple kinds of devices. That is also possible, actually. So I'm not getting into that. This is just an introduction. So I'm not getting into all that. All right. So that's the basic grid system that we'll be using. Where we'll be using this in our portfolio page. If you see here, in our portfolio, we'll be basically using it to structure this, the top level thing. So on the left, we need to have a personal information. Towards the center, we need to have some main information. Towards the right, some tweets. Here also, again, we are using. This is again 2-column layout. So basically, we'll be using in all these places. Okay, so that's the grid system. Now coming to the other things, I'll do one thing. I'll just show you one of the widgets. Then I think I'll move on to the portfolio. Otherwise, I won't be able to complete it. So I'll choose a good one. Okay. What I'll do is I'll choose this. How do you build this? All right. So this is called a collapsible panel group. Okay. Again, we have our own template, so I'll just copy the template. All right. And we're going to see how the collapsible panel group works. All right. So we have all the includes ready, and we need some content. So what I'll do, I'll just start building the portfolio thing itself. So let's build this thing itself. Okay. So each one of this is called a panel. So a rectangle with a header and some information, some heading and some information. So this is a panel group. It consists of 3 panels. All right, and it can open and close. Not only does it open and close, when one opens, the other one in the group closes. So only one is open at a time. So this is called a collapsible panel group. It can collapse, it can open and close, it's a panel, and 3 of them are grouped together into a collapsible panel group. So let's see how to do this. So, all right. So all of Bootstrap is just knowing what markup to give. So we don't have to really bother. In real life, we'll be doing something like this. Either you'll go to the Bootstrap site, you'll search for the component. For example, you want a panel group. So just go to, it's under JavaScript. It's a JavaScript component. It relies upon jQuery. So just go to collapse and you'll find the collapsible panel group thing example. You find here, just copy paste this. You'll be able to get whatever we're going to do right now. So this markup is what we're going to see actually. Right? You don't really have to remember. And if you have an extension like BS3, Bootstrap, that I showed, Bootstrap snippets, all you'll be doing is you'll type out BS3 and you'll say, okay, panel, and yeah, this is the markup for a panel. Maybe there is one for collapsible panel. I don't think it has. For some reason, they're not given.
Accordion.
Sorry?
It's called as accordion.
Accordion, yeah, correct.
Probably that is
Oh,
PS3.
accordion is there. Okay. No, actually, as you said, in other frameworks, usually they call it accordion. They used to call it collapsible panel groups. They also started calling it accordion, I believe, not Bootstrap. So, okay. So, but panel markup, you'll find it here. For example, just say BS3 panel, and this is a basic panel markup. Now, once you have a panel, you'll have to, this does not even have a head, panel heading, but so that markup somehow is missed in this extension. So we'll have to type that out. So let's start off. Okay, let's build a basic panel. So div class equal to panel. Myself will forget this. It's not possible to remember these things, but I'll try my best. So div class equal to panel, and within that we'll have to add 2 things it can have. It can have a heading and it can have a body. Right? So the heading right now, I just put the plain heading, then I'll enhance it. So some heading. And the body, let's put something. Let's say, let's start building this itself. Our all right. So this is a basic markup for a panel. Let's just see how this looks. Okay. So I'm making some mistake here. So I think it's called div class equal to panel heading. Sorry, it's panel heading and this is panel body. Okay, I'm still making some mistakes. Panel heading, panel default. Okay, so this is a basic panel. Again, there is no margins on the body. This is why it's not so clear. So I'll just add some small margin. Okay, so this is our adding clothes. Adding clothes. Okay, so we have a basic panel now. Now this is not yet collapsible, right? So how do you make this collapsible? So again, I'm just doing the basic markup. Within panel, you can also use something called a title, which will give some enhanced styles. So I'm not doing that. I'm keeping things basic. Or let me do that actually. All right. So panel title also again, it will just enhance the styles a bit. So you see it's become bigger. Okay. That's all it will do. So now we want to make this collapsible. So what can you do? So in Bootstrap, there's this usual pattern that is applied behaviors, like they're called behaviors. So this is a collapsible behavior. Certain elements have collapsible behaviors. Drop downs have collapsible behavior, and so on. So what you need to do is you need to include the entire body which is going to collapse inside a div class equal to collapse. Not only should you use this is a base class, and for panels you'll have to use panel collapse. So these two classes you have to create a container and include the body within a div with these two classes basically. All right. So now that's again a concept of a trigger and a target. Now what is triggering this opening and closing of the body? When I click on this panel title or heading, right? When I click on the panel title, basically it will open and close. All right. So this is the trigger for opening up this. So this is the target. This is a targeted element which will collapse and which will uncollapse. And this is the trigger for this, clicking on this div. So what we need to do on the trigger, we need to have to set up some classes. So not classes, attributes. So data collapse, data target. These two we'll have to set up. Data collapse has to be set to whatever is the kind of behavior. So do data collapse equal to collapse, you will say. I may be wrong in this. I'll refer if I go wrong somewhere. So data target, you'll have to set to whatever is the target's a unique identifier or some way to select it. You can give any CSS selected here. For example, I can also say panel collapse. Okay, since this is the only panel on the page, this will work fine. But usually if there are multiple panels on the page, it's better to give an ID for the panel. So I'll say this is our section 1. All right, and give that ID here. So say hash section 1 with the CSS selector. Data target will take that. Let's just see how this works now. Okay, click on this. I'm going wrong somewhere. Panel. Usually we also include an anchor tag within this. Maybe that's an issue. Okay, I'm going wrong somewhere. Let me just refer to the markup. So data toggle, okay, it's not data collapse, it's data toggle. So you'll have to include data toggle attribute, set it to collapse, and data target equal to the target's identifier. Okay, so now you can click on this and open and close it. I don't want this to, okay, let me remove this. I don't want the anchor styles and all. So I'm able to open and close this now. So I have got a collapsible panel right now, all right? So now I want to make a group out of this. So you may think, okay, let's duplicate this, all right, and I can get one. So you have to be careful to change the section, otherwise it will not behave well. If you forget, you'll get such errors. When one you click, something else you click. Because this is also targeting the previous one still. So you have to be careful while doing these changes. So you have to make sure you change your IDs. Okay, so now we have everything set up. So it will sort of behave like a collapsible panel or accordion, but the problem is they're all separate. Okay, they're like separate entities, so they're not behaving together like a team. Okay, so what you need to do for that is very simple. All these three now, so and it's very intuitive actually that way. So these three, you'll find this pattern very much repeated again. Whenever you want to group things, you'll group and put within a container. That container will give some class. Okay, so we group within a div, these three. And all we need to do is we need to say class equal to panel group. Okay? And however, there's a small extra step. For some reason, they've kept that extra step. You need to add an identifier or some way to target this parent element also. So we'll call this as main section, main FAQs. Okay, and what we need to do is on the trigger, this is the trigger for opening our panels, right? For opening the collapsible section. This is the trigger, clicking on the panel title. So for the trigger, we'll add one data parent attribute and make it point to our parent container. One. Same thing we have to do for this trigger. And same thing we need to do for this trigger. Okay, say still section 2 outcomes. Not this one. This. So for the three triggers, the title elements, for the three title elements, we have added a data parent attribute. 1, 2, yeah, three things we have added. Okay, for the title elements we have added. Now if you see, they will actually behave like a team. So when I open the other one, the first one closes. Okay, so now it is a real accordion. Okay, so yeah, so one more thing you can do is instead of using default, you can use a theme classes. So you can say panel success, and you know which color it will come. It will be a shade of green. So it will be like this. Like this, you can apply the other things also, but I'll leave it at default. Okay, so this is a collapsible panel. I think I'm missing. All right. Okay. All right. Any questions? Okay, so
one question I have. There is one you showed about container.
yeah,
There is something called as container fluid. What is the difference?
I've never used fluid. Okay, so Naveen who has joined us in the class at Q Code asked the question. There are two classes in Bootstrap. One is called container, another is called container fluid. So his question is, what is the difference between the two? I am actually not aware of the difference, but if I check out the documentation and try to understand what it is, okay, so it will be in grid system.
It's there in the CSS.
Is that in CSS? CSS policy. CSS, yes. And where in CSS?
Containers.
Fluid container, yeah, correct. So this is his question. There is also container fluid. Turn any fixed width grid layout into a fluid width grid. with layout by changing the outermost container to container fluid. Fixed width grid to a fluid width grid. I'm not sure. I'll just get back to you. Yeah.
When to use what? That was my question.
Okay. Personally, I've used only container. I have not even looked into. Probably have to explore what is container fluid. All right. So, all right. So we have completed one main element, which is basically the collapsible panel. All right. So there are two other elements, if you see here, that we are planning to cover today. That is form and navigation menu. So what I will do, instead of dwelling on these two separately, let's start building the personal portfolio page. And during that process, we'll get to know form and navigation menu. First thing, in fact, in this personal portfolio page, we'll be doing is navigation menu. Okay. So let's start off. Then at the end, we'll have forms actually. So we are going to build this page. Okay. Overall, let's see how. So if you're given any page, how do you go about it? We've seen this last time also. So basically, what you do, you will look at the page, you will decide what elements, how many elements I'll use at the top level, then go into details. For example, how many boxes do you see overall on this page? There's one on top, navigation menu, that's black. There's one below it, one row, which has three columns, right? Personal information, name, and tweets. There's one below that, one box below that, which has work experience. And there's one box below that, which is forms. This is a form. One box below that, which is footer. So on the page, basically, I want 5 elements now, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 boxes I want. That's the main thing. So on the top level, let's start building our portfolio page. This is how it should look like. This is what we're targeting. So let's start doing it. So I'll copy this template and let's create a portfolio.html. Okay. And let's paste this. So we're going to build our personal portfolio. Okay, all right. So, all right. So we have it ready. So now we have to get started. All right. Uh, See, in real life, in the interest of time, I think I will skip the entire navigation menu. I'll just explain it. So I'll just use BS3 and I'll say navbar. Okay, I'm going to do this and I'm going to remove some unnecessary things. That's all. Okay, so a lot of thing has come up already. So it's very simple. If you want to install these extensions, I'm using VS Code. Every IDE will have some kind of extension. If you install VS Code as your editor, you just need to go to code.visualstudio.com, download it, right? So it's there for every platform. So you can download it, install it. So you'll be able to install and run this editor. Then if you go to the extensions section, just need to search for kind of extension you want. For example, I want BS3 or I want Bootstrap. Maybe. So it shows me all the plugins related to Bootstrap. So I've installed Bootstrap 3 snippets. Okay. You can even install Bootstrap 4 and Font Awesome. So you get to use the latest features of Bootstrap if you install that. Okay. So the not yet to be released stable version 3. So okay, I'll do this. So I'm not going to type out. I'll just explain you what stands for what. All right. So I've got this entire markup from starting from line number 14 just by typing bs3-navbar to line number 51. Okay. So instead of typing it out, I'm just going to explain it to you. So the navbar has two portions. So if you see right now, the navbar would have got created because I typed in BS3. This is how I did it. Just to say again, BS3 hyphen navbar. Okay, and you'll get the navbar markup already. Or you just need to go to Bootstrap site and copy it from the documentation. So if you see this page right now, portfolio page. Okay, we already have a navbar in place, right? So we got that automatically because we used our plugin. So I'll explain you what the parts are. So there are two main parts to navbar. One is called the branding. This is the branding. So this is where usually the company title, the logo and all go. So that portion. And then there are multiple navigation drop downs, the actual navigation menus. So here there are two, one here and one to the right. Okay. If you see this site, I don't want that. I just want one to the right. So I'm going to go ahead and directly delete this. And then I'll explain the other one. Okay, it's these two. Okay, the one with the search and something else. Right now it'll be this. All right. So this is the kind of thing that I'm looking for. Of course, the colors are different and all that. Okay, so let me explain the navbar first. So the entire navbar will be enclosed within a div, nav. Or you can use a div also, but better a nav. The nav element is specifically meant for navigation menu. You can use a div also. Class equal to navbar default. So again, you have a base class for the navigation menu, and you have a enhanced class. So the base class is navbar, and the enhanced one is navbar default. Now this has some versions. The version we'll be using is navbar inverse. What it will do is it will invert the colors. So instead of dark foreground color and a light background color, it will use the inverse. So you see this. Okay. By default, we'll get some rounded borders. We'll fix that. So we have got sort of this kind. What we are looking for. Basically, we are looking to get this. All right. So navbar inverse. Then this is the branding portion. The first part, the navbar header container, div class equal to navbar header, will contain the branding. Even if I comment this out, you'll see there is not much of a difference right now. So we'll come to that later. Okay, and we have the navbar brand. So what we want about me. All right. So if somebody can volunteer, I can create a portfolio for you right now. So if anybody wants a portfolio right now, want a portfolio for yourself? Yes? Okay, what's your name? Yeah, sure. I'll say about me. All right. So this is now going to be about me instead of title, right? So this doesn't seem to make a difference. Where this makes a difference, I'll tell you. So if you see here, as and when we go on smaller screens, let's say you view it on a tablet, we start viewing on a phone, you want this kind of collapsible navigation menu, right? So to get this is what we'll use this for. Okay. So this markup here that you can see, the button markup, is basically for this toggle button that appears, 3 lines. So what it is saying is it's a button, and you'll have to add class equal to navbar toggle on it. Data toggle equal to collapse. Some classes you'll have to add. Data target equal to. This will be basically what it will open and close. If you see, this will be same as this. You can even give it an ID. In fact, I'll prefer an ID. I'll call it primary menu. So which container am I giving this ID? For this entire main menu, right? Which has this action, another action, something else, separated link, link drop down, right? For basically for this. So basically for this, right? For this portion which has all the primary menus, that is this div, I given an ID, primary menu. Okay, I could have created from scratch. Maybe that would have been a little easier to follow. So primary menu, and what we are doing is we are setting up data target equal to primary menu. All right. So our button should be targeting, data target. So this is similar to our collapsible panel, right? There also we have data target in the title, which is targeting the collapsible body, the panel body. Here we are targeting the menu. So data target, we have to set it to that CSS selector. So we are getting it by its ID. So hash primary menu. Then some classes we'll need to add. That's expected by Bootstrap. All right. And within that, we give, okay, you can forget this. This is for accessibility reasons. When people, some blind person probably visits your website. So I'm not going to explain this. This basically is the 3 lines. All right. So the 3 lines which appear here, when you 3 lines, 1, 2, 3. Those are actually, each line is an icon. So Bootstrap has some built-in icons also. So there's something called glyph icons, and there's some built-in classes which will give you icons. There are 2 ways, apart from font awesome that we saw. Bootstrap has its own icons. So this uses Bootstrap's icons, 3 lines basically. That's all we have done. Okay. So we have a button with 3 lines, which is going to open and close this primary menu. That's because of data toggle equal to collapse and data target equal to primary menu. And this is also necessary, class equal to navbar toggle. So we understand what this is for. This is for the branding. If you want, you can add an image also within this. You can do all that. So your logo, company name, all that will go inside this. For example, you can have the Twitter image here. Okay. Of course, it will be much bigger. You'll have to apply some classes to restrict its size. Okay, but I'm just saying that it can be applied. It's going out of. We'll have to restrict it by having a div container, image responsive, all those things we'll have to do. But you could have a logo here. Okay. Now coming to this section, which is the main primary menu, the navigation menu. So all this markup is given to you again, but if you see what it means, basically this is a collapsible container, and the particular kind of class, the navbar collapsible it is. The behavior is of a navbar which is collapsing. So these 2 are necessary. Then of course we have given it an ID so that we could target it from here. And then this is our markup for a menu. Menus are usually marked up using ULLIs, unordered lists. So list items, just like bulleted points in MS Word you add, these are basically that list items. So you'll have to add a set of classes. For example, nav, navbar, navbar, nav. These are the top level things you'll have to add on the UL. On every LI, within which you'll have an anchor tag. Okay, so all this is automatically generated for me. If something has to have a sub menu, then you'll have to add on that LI the class dropdown in addition. So these don't have submenus, for example. This doesn't have a submenu. So it's LI, within that you have an anchor tag. That's the way you have to give. Okay, you don't have to think too much. That's the markup it expects. So if you have to have a submenu, then LI you should add the class dropdown, and you should have the anchor tag again within the LI, which will have the text. For example, here you can see the text is there. Yeah, drop down, that's the text. So the text is there. And then right next to the drop down, we should have an icon. This is a good practice actually, to indicate to the user that yes, you can click there and some submenu will appear. That we do through this caret icon. Okay, the small drop. So you have to add, you can add it using font awesome also. Font awesome has an equivalent caret icon, or you can use Bootstrap's built-in class equal to caret to get this. Okay, so we have got that. Now the submenu. Submenu is again given through a UL, and on that submenu we'll have to add class equal to drop-down menu. Okay, so and then same LI is within that. All right. I have never built a sub menu myself, but I'm sure you can do it. I've seen people do it in Bootstrap, so it should be possible somehow. So you get the submenu, and if you keep going down, let's refresh. If you keep going down, its space is reducing. It collapses, and you can expand and view. Okay, so this neat kind of pattern is actually very difficult to achieve on your own. With Bootstrap, now we have done it very easily. We have not even typed anything. I've just used the plugin of Bootstrap for VS Code and got everything running. All right. The last thing, what you could do is on a lot of sites, you will find this kind of fixed on top navigation menu, right? So you have, when you scroll on the page also, it will remain fixed on the page, right? So you have this navigation menu. So it's fixed on the page. So to get this kind of thing, all you need to do is, along with navbar inverse, just add navbar fix top. You can also fix to the bottom, but usually we don't have a use case. Maybe footers you could, but yeah, usually you fix it to the top. Right now we don't have too much content, but when we add content, when we scroll, it'll remain on top like this. Okay. So this will also solve this rounded border issue. Well, once you fix it on top, the styles will take care of it. Now, one small thing that's remaining probably is you'll see there are margins to the left and to the right, right? So how do you think we can solve this margins? How can I add margins? Right now, there's no margin, much margin. So div div and CSS container. We have already seen to add. We can so container can be used anywhere. It's not only with the grid system. So we want to add margins within our navbar. So I'll say div class equal to container, right? So, and I'll just indent this entire thing. All right. So just doing this will give me responsive margins. So that's the beauty of Bootstrap. I don't require to know any HTML, not much of HTML, CSS. I just need to know what classes to apply, and it will take care of everything for me. And it will be good on all devices. Okay. So it's so good. So, all right. So we have built our basic thing. Now let's change the menu items. So let's say, okay, what would you like to have? Shall I use this, or you want to add some text? I'll use this. Okay. So at a glance, so work experience. Okay. Are you working right now? So okay. How many years are you working? 2 years. Okay. How many companies? One company. Okay, then I'll make it like, shall I include your academic thing? Because I'll need few things. So, sorry? Yeah, please.
Here added a hashtag primary menu somewhere.
Primary menu, right?
You added a hashtag for primary menu somewhere.
Yes.
Could you please say like why
Yeah.
use a hashtag?
Yeah.
Or how is it correlated?
Okay. So basically in Bootstrap, so we have this concept of many places we have this concept of trigger and target. So in the collapsible thing also we saw there is this trigger and target, right? For example, the collapsible thing that we saw. This clicking on this is the trigger for opening up my body, panel body. So same thing is happening here. So clicking on clicking on this button is the trigger for opening up the collapsed menu. So this is the trigger. This button is the trigger, and this is the targeted element. What I'm targeting for opening and closing. So I have to link up the trigger to the target. This is the target for this element. So what we are doing is we are giving for the entire collapsible menu, the primary menu, we are just giving an ID so that we can identify it uniquely in code. So giving it an ID, and then to this button, which is a trigger, we'll have to add a data target property, usually data target, and we give the ID. So that's opening process. Okay. So, all right, where was I? All right, so. All right, and okay, so your projects, you would have worked on 3-4 projects at a time, right? Okay, right. And all right. All right. So we have the top level thing ready now. So one of the boxes is ready now. All right. Oh, no, not yet ready. Why? This is right. Oh, sorry. That's coming under drop down. All of these. Oh, I'm sorry. So I'll have to move all of this. Okay. So these are the main menu items, and then the creations. Okay, the projects will go under a sub menu. So let's say, what is one? Can you name one or two projects?
Dashboard design.
I'll just say dashboard design. Then
One for different products.
one any product can name.
Highly.
Select. Okay. Fine. All right. So all right. So still we don't have the contact. So let me add that. So we have the top level thing ready. So now let's start off with the main part. All right. So our main portion should look something like this. This is how we have decided. All right. So I'm going to use my photo. All right. And I'm going to use your information. Okay. Now, how do you think we could design this? Okay. Okay, I'm not talking about the image, I'm talking about the high level, this box. So there's 3 columns, right? Column, MD, whatever, yes. So basically how I have divided this is 1:2:1, all right? 1:2:1, that's the ratio I've used. So I'm going to go ahead and divide this up. So we'll enclose within a container, okay? So not directly within a container, I'll tell you why. We could also, yeah, div class. Within that, we'll have one row. So we're using a grid system that we have learned. So within the row, we know that we can have columns. So div class equal to call MD. I'm using MD because in other screens, in smaller screens, I want them stacked up. So I'll say MD, we have 12 units in total, right? So these 12 units, I want to divide in the ratio 1:2:1. So I need to give 3, is it? Yeah, 3, 6, 3, that's right. So I'll give 3, then I'll give 6, and then I'll give 3. All right. So I'll just put some dummy content for now, just to verify that the split up is okay. Okay, and let's view this. There'll be a slight problem which will sort. You don't see the content. Now what's happening? The problem is, if you see where the content is, I'm just inspecting using the dev tools. So if you see where our content has gone within the div container, the row, it is actually behind the fixed element. Okay, whenever you fix things, those are not treated as part of the normal layout, normal flow layout. So what you need to do, Bootstrap recommends that whenever you're having a fixed on top thing, go ahead and give. So later, if there is time, I'll separate these styles out onto a separate page, CSS page. So for the body, give at least 50 pixels margin or padding. I'll go ahead and actually give 70 because I want some extra space apart from 50. So now you see things and they're sort of in the way we are expecting it, or is it? Yeah, they are in the way we are expecting it. This sort of looks bigger because there's actually margin to the right. Okay, so it actually sort of looks bigger, but it's actually happening in 1:2:1 ratio, and that's the way we want it. Now let's get into details. So let's first look at this thing. How do we do this? Okay. There are certain classes which I have not introduced, so I'll be introducing those now. All right. One of them is text center. This is a simple Bootstrap class. You don't have to do much. We just add text center. Everything within that element will get centered. So you see here, everything is centered. So everything is will be centered from now, whatever we do. What is the first thing we need to add? We need to add an image. So I need an image. So what I'll do is I'll copy an image. All right. So I'll copy it, or I'll just copy somebody else's image. Okay, let's pick up. Okay, so we have some person's image, and let's just see how this looks right now. Okay, we have the guy's image, but images will occupy their natural size, right? So what can we do to contain them? So one thing we use the image class equal to img responsive. So now at least I'm assured it won't go outside of that grid column. Okay, so you can see that it's already gone to the left because of that reason. Now I don't want even this much. I'm not satisfied with this. Actually, if you see here, I want it smaller. Okay. So what I could do, okay, is I could just wrap it up in a div. Okay, I could do in various ways. So one way I'm doing it, and for this div, okay, let me add an ID. Okay, so I select by the ID, and I'll say its div should be only 50% of the parent width. So I'm not allowing the div to be full width. I'm making it 50% wide. But the problem is, it is now going to get left to the left. I want it to be center line. All right, it's actually not center line on that. If you see, this column is actually this much, but it's towards the left. So again, Bootstrap gives you some convenience classes. So you don't have to, you just need to know these convenience classes. So all you need to do is on this div, it should be centered. So I don't need to know any CSS. So if you want to know the CSS behind this, you can watch webinar 1, which was telecast last week. All right. So you just need to say block center or center block, one of them. Okay. I think it's center block. When you say that, it'll actually get centered. So not only we want to make this responsive, we want to make it rounded, right? So I'll just add img circle also along with this. So it was not a perfect square image, so it made it an ellipse instead of a circle. So, all right, so we have this image right in place. Next is just some text. So I'll just copy quickly this text so that I can make changes. Oh, sorry, not here. Here. So for neatness, I'll just put it within a div so that logically grouped. That's all. All right. So we have personal info, right? So let's see how it should look like. So personal info should be a heading. So I'll put it within an H3 or something. Usually when we type out, we don't type out in capital case. So we type out in lowercase, but that's okay. Bootstrap gives you the class text uppercase. And this will automatically convert whatever is rendered within it to uppercase. All right, so you have an H3, and then you have a line below it. So we'll give an HR. Then you have some name this, email this, so on. So what I'm going to do, for just for grouping it logically, I'm going to put this like this, and name. Again, usually you don't. So all of this is uppercase, by the way. So what we can do is we can remove this on this thing and instead transfer it to our div itself. So everything within that div will be uppercase. All right. So my heading, this name, whatever. So this, what's your full name? Yashwant? Yashwant, sorry, Yashwant. Okay. All right, so okay, so let's say your email ID is Yashwant. Okay, so okay, so I'm just putting everything within the same kind of markup. So okay. So right now, if you see how this looks, it won't be very neat, but it's okay. All right. So what are the things that we can change? Okay, I can make this smaller. All right. So instead of an H3, I can use an H4. The fonts that you choose on a page are very important to how a page looks. It can make or break a page actually. So I find this font much neater. So what I'll do is I'll just copy this font from the existing page. All right. So I have this font here. Uh, okay, this is the link to the font. I'll just put it onto our page. All right. So now, and I'll set the body's font to that. And I'll also increase the font size. Okay. So now our font has changed. Okay, so I think an H3 itself was okay for this font. Okay. All right, we have an H3. Here it's coming on one line. I think I've given more space, or I don't know what. There are more margins here as far as I see. Okay, the entire thing is coming within a 50%, I think. Oh, yeah, sorry. So even the text and all had gone to 50% container. Now I've changed it. So you can see it's much neater now, right? So now we want this bold. So again, to do such things, we have class text bold. Or no, not text bold. We don't have a class text bold. We just need to enclose it within a strong. And Bootstrap will make sure that usually strong is bolded only, but Bootstrap will make sure it is bold for sure. All right. Do you have a website by any chance? All right. So I'll further enclose this also within a strong. Will definitely be bold. All right. It's bold. And we need to increase. If you see here, there are some increased spacing. So all I'll do is I'll just go ahead. I'll probably give this a class. Right? And okay, and we'll give this style so that we still should know some amount of CSS that is essential to build a site. Only thing, the amount of CSS that we need to know is reduced. Now it is spread out. So sort of complete, right? This portion is sort of complete. I won't go into too much details. For example, this is a black color HR. You'll have to add some color and all for that to get that. So not going to those details. Now let's get into the main stuff. So now we have the main body, all right? So let me again copy the main everything, the body. So we'll put that within our second column. So within our container, our row, first column is over, second column, all right? So, all right. I'll say you're enrolled at Q code, okay? And okay, you want to be an instructor, fine. All right. Matt? Oh, you teach that, is it? Oh, you are also an instructor, is it? Okay. Fifth class, is it? FLI? Fifth class, okay. Space? Okay, fine. All right. So you can, let's say we'll put this since we have it, and this is uppercase, right? So I'd go ahead and add the class uppercase. Similarly, the other one is also uppercase. So what I'll do, the heading and subheading, I'll group under one. Subtract the class. All right. So now we need to put this on a separate line. So we'll put this within an H2 or an H3 or H2. Let's try an H2. The entire thing within an H2. Okay, and Bootstrap again gives you this heading subheading kind of pattern is very repetitive. So Bootstrap gives you. Okay, should I use no? Let me not use that. So I'll use H2 for this, and I'll use H3 for this. see right now, sort of we are getting there, right? So this, let's make it smaller. Okay. Let's add a line between them. Okay. Almost there. So now let's come to the main content. Okay, I won't go into exact how it looks, but let's come to the main content. Let's say there's some thing. So what are some of the things that you take, courses that you are having?
Mathematics, Java.
It's for school, college, schools. And some content. So I'll keep things simple. So maybe I'll just put this within a paragraph. And we get this much right now. All right. So now we need to go ahead and add our accordion. Right. So that is simple. That is something we have already created. So I'll not repeat it. That's why I choose exactly this. So this entire thing that we created, let's just copy this. I paste it right below this. Okay. So we have it, and okay. Okay. So in the interest of time, I'll just let this be like that itself. Right. So I'll let this be like this. Let's see how it looks. So we have already made our accordion. I just copy pasted this. Okay. So you can change all of that. Who am I? You can change it to at least one of them, and let me change. And you can change the content within that also. So now we have got one portion of our portfolio. All right. Are you on Twitter? You're not on Twitter. All right. LinkedIn, you have a profile? You have a profile. Okay, how do I add? Okay. I'm not really sure. LinkedIn, let's see. How can I search for you? Oh, yeah. The full name from this?
Tower.
Sorry?
Yeah.
BL. This is right?
B for Bellu.
Where? Which one?
B.
Why is it not turning up? Okay, let me check the class.
Huawei.
Okay. Fine. Do you want this going over the internet, by the way? No, okay. I'll go ahead. Fine. Uh, so what you could do is you could add whatever LinkedIn or whatever you want, you can add that there. Okay. All right. So in the third column, I'll just leave it as such. I'll just give a heading there. Probably I'll just say latest tweets. Okay. So we'll leave it like this right now. Okay, you could do certain line height adjustments for this so that these two are aligned actually. All right, you can increase the line height of this so that this gets aligned, this line gets aligned with this. So I'll leave that also. Let's go on to the third portion, all right, which is basically this work experience portion. This is the simplest portion actually. Although it looks quite neat, you already know what it is. It is basically a two-column layout with some heading and some subheading in each thing. Okay, two-column layout. There are two rows. All right, I've added two rows, each with two columns. So let's do that. So after the end of this section, we'll have another div class equal to container. Within this, we'll add one row. And then let's add the columns within that. So two-column layout. So I'm going to keep things simple. Call 6, MD6, and another MD6. So first let us do one of the columns and then I'll duplicate this to another column. All right. So what does one column contain? Okay, it contains some heading and some subheading. That's the first row. Okay. Last class we had seen we had to do a lot of float left, float right, and all right. In this, it will be very simple. I'll just show you. Here, our title, job title, or whatever, is floated to the left. Is to the left. Need not be floated also. But this thing, how much time we have worked for, is definitely floated to the right. So I'll put this separately within a span. All right. All you need to do to float things to the right in Bootstrap is you need to add the class. Okay, let's see right now how it looks actually. So some content is there, and then I'll just add some dummy text. So I'll just copy this for now. We've been working there for 2 years. 2 years since. All right. So okay, I'll put this much. Yeah, I put this much, and let's see how this looks right now. So, okay. So one thing we are noticing is we don't have, okay, first of all, there is a heading for that section, entire section, work experience and whatever. Let's do that. So for this entire container, first thing, let's have a row. We can have a row, we need not have a row also. So I'll just skip the row. I'll just say H2, work experience. Certain things I just want to show here. So, for example, right now it won't be centered on the page. You see here, work experience comes to the left and then there's a line. I want to center on the page. How can I do that using Bootstrap? All you need to do is you need to say class equal to text center. Okay. So it will be in the center. What else do we have? This background is blue, right? So for that, all we need to do is for a container, we can add the class bg info. So again, the theme comes into picture. If you don't like any of the theme colors, then you'll have to write some custom CSS. If it's okay, you can use the theme colors. So you get a blue thing. This is why I didn't want to add a background. So the left-right margins will never get a background color. Only the padding areas and all will get a background color. So that it's better to add a separate div around this container and give it the class bginfo. So now the entire portion rectangle will get a background color. Margins don't get background colors. So that's why it was not getting blue to the left and to the right. Okay. So you will have to adjust some amount of padding on top and all, which I have done using custom CSS. So I'm going to skip it. Okay, we're just getting the layout first. Now instructor at flip class, and then you want this for duration to come to the right. All right, and you want it to come in small thing. So Bootstrap has this nice thing for handling span as a class equal to small. So it'll actually make it smaller, or I think it's just small. Let me just try. I'm confused a little bit. Yeah, so you just need to add the class small. So whenever you have a heading, subheading kind of thing, you can always directly use this kind of pattern anywhere in Bootstrap. So you can enclose the entire thing within a container, H3 or whatever, and whatever you want to make smaller, just enclose within small. So you can customize Bootstrap, which means you can control what colors will appear when it's small and all. So okay, this is done. And now how do you float to the right? So again, no complex CSS, nothing involved. Just say class equal to full right. So what will happen is this will move to the right of that entire piece. Okay. So this has moved to the right. I'll add just some dummy content extra. So I'll just grab some dummy content. All right. And yeah, we have one column ready right now. Okay. You can even justify this text and all. So let's say everything within this row should be justified. So I can say text justify. So we have seen this earlier also. Text center, similarly text justify. The entire thing is justified. Now I have one column ready. So all I need to do is I'll copy this onto another column. And I'll copy this row, entire row, into two. Okay. Then we can go ahead and make our changes to the site. So you can see that I've got a multi-column layout. Now you need to adjust some margins, all that you'll have to do. For example, if I have to just show for one of the rows, so if you see here, I'll just add some inline styles in the interest of time again. So margin bottom, below this row, let's say we want a 40 pixel margin. So it just added some extra space, all right? So this way we can go ahead and get this kind of a layout. A little more neat, so that is possible. And the final thing is forms. Okay, so I have not covered forms. So again, I don't think I'll be able to cover forms today. So I'll skip the forms portion. All right. So maybe I can just show you the markup with the existing portfolio. So what I will do is the existing portfolio page. I'll just show you how to go about. It's again very simple. So this is how the form has been constructed. If you see, if I copy paste this onto a page, let me do that. In fact, everything will start showing up on that page itself. I'm just copying from the existing thing. So I'm not going to do forms. I'll just explain you the code. So, all right. I've just pasted the code. If you see how it looks yes the same. So you have the form ready right now. All right. You need to do some margin adjustments, padding adjustments, and all. So basically, how we have got this neat kind of form, it's actually very simple. Again, some markup you need to add. So I'll just explain the markup for every element. So our form is there, okay, this is and all the heading like we did for the previous section and so on. Our form has started off. Every element, a form element, there are 4 form elements here, 1, 2, 3, 4, and in fact 5, the form buttons also. 5 rows are there. Each one you'll have to include within a div form class equal to form group. Then the label include within label. Okay, this is HTML, so I'm not going explaining the for attribute and all. So the label is for this input element. So the label, you'll have to give the class control label. Okay, this is a custom class that I have added to give this red stars. Okay, that's not coming up because this custom class has not been defined on this page. All right, I can go ahead and do that also, and you'll get a red asterisk. So control label is what you'll have to give on the label. On the input element, you have to enclose within a div. Okay. The form, by the way, you'll have to add a class form horizontal. What this form horizontal gives, there are different kinds of forms, form inline, form horizontal, and all is that. What this gives is the ability to control the layout of the form, how the different elements of the form should be laid out. Right? For example, in this case, the form label is to the left and the form element is to the right. Okay. So that's the thing. Whenever we use form horizontal, we want to get this kind of layout where we want label to the left and we want a form element to the right. So we have form horizontal and we have label for which we are giving control label, and we have the input element. Okay, I'm not going to the attributes, that is HTML. And for the input element, you'll have to enclose within a div. And you're seeing that how we control the amount of space for the label and this. It's basically we are using our call classes again, right? So we are using call sm2 here, and I'm using call sm10 here. Why I've chosen sm instead of md? Because I thought, okay, this is not too crowded, unlike something like this where we had 3 things. So even on small device, that is between 768 pixel and 992 pixel, having one beside the other is okay. This still doesn't look cluttered. Whereas if this I had maintained 3 column layout, okay, some adjustments need to be done to center this. If this we had maintained 3 column layout, it would have got too crowded. Okay, here below empty devices, it stacks up, right? The columns stack up here. Whereas here they will stack up. Here also they stack up on MD because we have used call MD6, right? Here we have used call SM2 and a call SM4. So only on small devices and lesser, it'll get stacked up. So this is okay. It'll get stacked up. So if you see, get smaller and smaller. So on a phone, it will look like this. Label will come on top, and the form element will come below. Okay. So all this responsiveness is out of the box as long as you use form horizontal. Okay. Since we have split it up as for the label call SM2 and for the input element 10 units. So 2:10 ratio. It will get stacked up on a 4 because we have used SM and not XS. If you change this to an XS, you'll see that it doesn't get stacked up. First one, I've used XS now for the label and the input element. You'll see that here it has not got stacked up. It is next to, right? It's next to, but these have got stacked up. Email and below that, phone below that, message below that. So you'll have to make the right choices for your which breakpoints to use, whether to use SM, whether to use MD, depending upon whether it will get crowded or not. The screen, the elements on the screen. So you add all these, and you'll get this neat kind of form. Okay, I'll stop with this. The last thing is basically, if you see here, so I'm not going to do that part, which is basically the footer. All right. So the footer basically has something floated to the right. So pull right I've used for this. This is called a button group. Okay, if you have 3 buttons, you can enclose within a div with class BTN group. Okay, and you'll get this. So if you enclose 3 buttons within a class div with class BTN group, you'll get this sort of split kind of button. Okay, you floated it to the right, pull right class we have added, and text center we have added for this text. That's all. And then it's within a container. You're given BG inverse or something. I think I've given a custom background. There's no black color background. That's about it actually. So yeah, so this is how we can go about building something using Bootstrap. So any questions here? It's all okay. All right, so any questions for people attending over the internet? Guys, any questions from your side? Okay, I don't think so. All right, so I think that's about it. So that's all I wanted to cover in this. I'll be sharing with you whatever, it's actually already shared. So this link to the completed portfolio, and I'll host this also on somewhere. And I'll share both these links with all of you guys. Thank you for your patience. We are actually conducting, so this webinar is actually part of a four-part series. So we had the HTML and CSS webinar last week. So we'll be having a JavaScript webinar, and we'll be having a AngularJS webinar. And Naveen, who's taking the AngularJS course, certification course, which is something apart from the front end. So we are offering a front end development course, which includes HTML, CSS, JavaScript, jQuery, Bootstrap, and Angular. So HTML, CSS, JavaScript are base 3 technologies. Bootstrap we have seen today. jQuery is an addition to JavaScript, and Angular is something you use to build applications. So all this will be covering in the front-end course. The front-end course is 32 hours long, and it will happen over Saturday, Sunday, for 4 hours. So it's for the entire month of July, all weeks of July, weekends of July. Naveen is also conducting. Naveen is an instructor at SKUcode. He is conducting AngularJS certification course, which I think is 16 hours, right? Sometime it's 16, and July it's starting, is it? Sometime in July it's starting. So you'll find all these details basically on the SKUcode website. So if you just go to sqcode.com,
That 32-hour session that you will be taking or maybe?
I'll be taking the 32-hour session. That's front end, and if you want application development, then we already know HTML, CSS kind. Then you can directly go in for the AngularJS certification, which will help you build web applications. That's not so much for websites, that's more for web applications we are building. So web applications like any kind of application that you use. So you'll find all the details on the SKUcode website. So the schedule for the upcoming schedule, for example. So this is today's workshop, for example. And you have next week we have this same time we have the workshop on JavaScript, and we may change the time to Saturday because that works out better, we feel, for all of people who are attending live, that is face to face. And then we also have crash course in Angular on 29th, which Naveen will be taking. And then we have the certification course, which will be starting off and so on. So you can find all these details on sqcode.com. And we also have a blog where you can go, and we try to blog regularly. We just started. So you can make use of the blog. Our YouTube channel is basically, you're already on the YouTube channel. That's how you are able to view if you're viewing online. Otherwise, our YouTube channel is SKUcode. So you can go to just search for SKUcode on YouTube, and we have some videos up. You'll find details. You'll find previous recordings of the previous webinars, and also some other kind of tutorials. So all this you can find it here. So that's about it. So thanks for attending the session. Thanks for taking time out on a weekday, coming to us and attending. Any questions before we end? Right? All right. So I'll be sharing all of these files with you. All right. So that brings us to the end of the webinar, guys. So thanks for attending. So I'll be ending the webinar now.